can start, sir.
You can start. Okay. We shall now go to Sloka number 23 of the 5th canto of Kumarasambhavam. The verse reads, Nikamatapta dvividhena vanhina nabhascharenendhana sambhrutena sa tapatyaye varibhirukshita navair sahoshmanam amuncha durdhvagam. Nikamatapta Dividhena vanhina nabhascharenendhana sambhrutena sa tapatyaye varibhirukshita navair bhuva sahoshmanam amuncha durdhvagam. In this verse, Kalidasa describes the austerities of Parvati during the summer season. Parvati was intensely heated. Tapta is heated. Nikama means intensely. Intensely heated by fire. Vanhina by fire of two types, dvividhena. The two types are described, one as nabhascharena, which means the one moving in the sky, and the other is indhana sambhrutena, what is intensified by fuel. After the passage of the summer season, tapatyaye, tapa is the summer season, atyaya is the conclusion. After the passing of the summer season, she was now drenched, ukshita, with waters. The fresh waters, navaihi varibhihi ukshita. The consequence of this is described in the last quarter of the verse. Along with the earth, bhuva saha, she released amunchat, the heat, ushmanam, the heat, which went up. The idea of the shloka is this: the summer season came to an end. The earlier verses described her intense austerities during the summer season, and now that the summer season was coming to a close, it is the time for the advent of the rainy season. So this junction is described in this verse. So Nikama Tapta, Sa is the subject. Sa is the subject of the sentence, and Amunchat is the verb of the sentence. Sa Amunchat. Ushmanam is the object of the sentence. Sa Ushmanam Amunchat. So she released the heat. The heat went up, urdhvagam, that would go up. So urdhvagam, and the parallel to this is drawn from the earth on which she was sitting, bhuvasaha, along with the earth. The earth too, after the cessation of the summer season and with the advent of the rainy season, releases vapors from the surface, and even so the hot air was released from the earth. Even so, the hot sigh emanated from the body of Parvati. So Ushmanam Bhuvasaha Sa Amunchat. Urdhagam Ushmanam Sa Amunchat. When did this happen? When she was ukshita, rather than drenched, you should say sprinkled. When she was sprinkled with water, Navaihi Varvihi, by the fresh waters of the rainy season, at the end, conclusion or end is Atyaya, at the end of the summer season. Tapa stands for summer season. So at the end of the Tapa season, Parvati thus released the heat of the body. Having been subjected to a scorching heat, Nikama Tapta, Tapta is heated or scorched, Nikama, intensely. Parvati was heated, her body was subject to the heat of two kinds of fire, Dvividhena Vanhina. Vanhi is fire, Dvividha of two types, namely the sun and the fire around. So the sun is the fire in the sky. So Nabhascharena Vanhina is one expression, and Indhana Sambhritena Vanhina is the other expression referring to the two fires. So Nabhascharena Vanhina is the fire moving in the sky. The sun is referred to as nothing but fire, so moving in the sky, Nabhascharena. And Indhana Sambhrita is what is nourished by fuel. So Parvati was surrounded by fuel on all her sides, and therefore this tapas of Parvati is one which involves surrounding oneself with all around. So Indhana Sambhritena. And the consequence of these two fires was that she was Nikama Tapta, she was intensely heated, subjected to a great deal of heat on account of that. The word Nikama Tapta is to be analyzed as Nikamam Tapta. Nikama Tapta. The word Nikam here has an adverbial force. So it means excessively heated, subjected to great heat. Nikama Tapta refers to Parvati. So Sa Nikama Tapta. Parvati was subjected to immense heat by fire, Vanhina. So Vanhi Shabda is pulling all the synonyms of Agni or masculine. Therefore this is M31, Pullinga Tritiya Vibhakti Ekvachana. Vanhina Tapta. Parvati was heated by fire, and obviously as a consequence Ushmanam Amunchat. So she released the heat of the body at the advent of the rainy season. She was subjected to heat by fire, Vanhina. This itself was of two types, Dvividhena Vanhina. Dvividhena to be analyzed as Dve Vidhe Yasya Saha. So that which is of two types. In Sanskrit, Vidha means type and Dve Vidhe of two types, Dvividhena Vanhina. Now, the two types are referred to in the expressions Nabhascharena and Indhana Sambhritena. Nabhasi Charati is equal to Nabhascharaha. Sometimes this is analyzed in two steps, Charati iti Charaha and Nabhasi Charaha Nabhascharaha. So Nabhascharaha Vanhihi is one type of Vanhi, one type of Agni, and Indhana Sambhritaha is the other type of Agni. So the fuel that is used in order to engender fire. So this is to be analyzed as Indhanaihi. It's not writing. ಬರಿತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಯಾಕೋ ನೋಡಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯಾಕೋ ಬರಿತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್
It will. Okay.
Indhanaihi Sambhritaha yields Indhana Sambhritaha and Tena in order to qualify Vanhina. As Vanhina is Pullinga Tritiya Vibhakti Ekvachana, its adjectives, namely Nabhascharena, is also Pullinga Tritiya Vibhakti Ekvachana, and the word Indhana Sambhritena is also Pullinga Tritiya Vibhakti Ekvachana. So these are the two types of Vanhis, Dvividhena Vanhina, Nabhascharena Vanhina and Indhana Sambhritena Vanhina. So on account of the fresh waters of the rainy season, she was sprinkled. The word Ukshita is from root Uksha Sechane. The word Tapa refers to summer, and the dissolution of Tapatyaye is Tapasya Atyayaha. Is Tapatyayaha. tasmin tapatyaye. There are words like tapas, mahas and chandas which are seen as akaranta shabdas also, as tapa, maha and chanda, and with different meanings. So tapas means austerities, whereas tapa is summer. So similarly mahas and maha different meanings, so also chandas and chanda. So tapasya atyayaha, at the end of the rainy season she was sprinkled with waters, varibhihi. So vari shabda is napumsakalinga, vari, varini, varini, etc. Therefore this is napumsakalinga, tritiya vibhakti bahuvachana. So varibhihi, and its adjective navaihi also obviously has to be n33, napumsakalinga, tritiya vibhakti bahuvachana. So navaihi varibhihi ukshita, we can add here sati, being so. Bhuva saha ushmanam amunchat. The word ushmanam is to be analyzed like this. We have the word ushman in Sanskrit, means heat. Which itself is from ushnasya bhavaha. So ushnasya bhavaha yields ushma, the nominative singular of ushman, and tam, ushmanam. So this is masculine, ditya vibhakti ekvachana. Ushmanam bhuva saha amunchat. So the adjective of ushmanam, namely urdhvagam, is also pullinga ditya vibhakti ekvachana. Urdhvagam ushmanam bhuva saha. So the word for earth, all the synonyms of the word earth are feminine in Sanskrit, and therefore bhuva is F31, stilinga tritiya vibhakti ekvachana. Because of the presence of saha, we find the word bhuva in tritiya vibhakti. So bhuva saha, along with the earth, ushmanam amunchat. So the form amunchat, or these are the lung forms. This is lung, prathama purusha ekvachana form, and the forms are amunchat, amunchatam, amunchan, amunchah, amunchatam, amunchata, amuncham, amunchava, amunchama. Bhuva saha ushmanam amunchat. So instead of saying that Parvati released the heat, he has also brought in the juxtaposition of bhuva saha, and therefore this is an example of the figure of speech called sahokti. The definition of sahokti is sa sahoktihi saharthasya baladekam dvivachakam. So that is called sahokti, where there is a juxtaposition of another item along with the explanation of the idea here. The word vari, so is nahumsakalinga, and excepting apaha, which is in strilinga, the synonyms are all nahumsakalinga. Apastri bhumni, and then vari. So these are the synonyms of water: salilam, kamalam, jalam. All the synonyms of water are neuter in gender. So varibhihi ukshita sa. So sa is qualified here by the expression varibhihi ukshita sa. Sa refers to Parvati. Nikamatapta sa varibhir ukshita sati. So ushmanam amunchat. That forms the actual sentence. Now Mallinatha takes a variant reading for Dvividhena Vanhina. Now instead of Dvividhena Vanhina, he takes the reading Vividhena Vanhina. the word vividhena is to be analyzed as vividhaha, vidhaha yasmin tat saha. So, this gives vividhaha, and then this qualifies vanhi here, and as vanhina is in Strilinga, in Tritiya Vibhakti Ekvachana, we have tena. So, vividhena vanhina refers to the various kinds of fires, and here there is a reference to what is called Panchagni tapas. Panchagni tapas is an austerity that is performed not during winter, but during summer, when it is the heat at its height, the maximum heat. So, in the context of the burning and scorching heat, this tapas called Panchagni tapas is performed, where the person performing the tapas is surrounded on all the four sides by four fires, and the fifth fire itself is the sun. And as you have seen earlier, Parvati has to look at the sun constantly and perform the tapas. So, vividhena vanhina also makes a sensible reading, and so Parvati is scorched immensely by the heat of the five fires. So, if you take it as Dvividha, one is the celestial heat and the other is the earthly heat. So, one is Indhana Sambrita and the other is Nabhaschara. Nabhascharena Indhana Sambritena sa. Nabhas refers to the sky. So, the synonyms are Nabhontariksham, Gaganam, Anantam, Suravartmakam, Kham. So, Nabhaha, Antariksham, Gaganam, etc. are the synonyms of the word Nabhaha. And Indhana Sambritena. So, in Sanskrit we have the words like Kashtha, Indhana, Daru. These are all synonymous. So, Kashtham, Daru, Indhanam tu Edhaha, Edhas. Idhmam, and then Edha is also a word that is used for that, and Samit. So, all these are words that are used for the word fuel. And Nava has its synonyms, namely Navino, Nutano, Navaha in Amarakosha. So, Navina and Nutana, and even Nutna. So, all these are synonyms of Nava. The word Tapatyaya is used as having the sense of Grishmanta, and as Malinatha notes, it means Pravrishi. So, in the Pravrit Kala. So, the advent of the Pravrit Kala is described here. Pravrishi ityarthaha, he says. The word Urdhvagam is to be analyzed as Urdhvam Gacchati iti Urdhvagaha, as it qualifies Ushman, which is masculine. So, Tam. So, Urdhvagam is an adjective for Ushmanam. So, this is M21 and therefore, this is also M21. So, this shloka brings out how Parvati performed tapas during the summer season and what happened to her at the advent of the rainy season. So, Kalidasa describes the tapas of Parvati as per the various seasons. So, first is the Grishma, then the Varsha, and then the Shishira and Hemanta. These are the seasons which show a certain degree of severity, whereas the spring and the autumn do not show that severity, and therefore the severe penance performed by Parvati during these severe seasons is described by Kalidasa in his Kumarasambhavam, and this verse describes the period of the junction between the summer and the rainy seasons. We shall now pass on to the next verse. This is verse 24. Sthitaha kshanam pakshmasu taditadharaha payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha वलीषु तस्याः स्खलिताः प्रपेदिरे चिरेण नाभिं प्रथमोदबिन्दवः स्थिताः क्षणं पक्ष्मसु ताडिताधराः पयोधरोत्सेधनिपातचूर्णिताः वलीषु तस्याः स्खलिताः प्रपेदिरे चिरेण नाभिं प्रथमोदबिन्दवः. This verse describes the advent of the rainy season and the effect of the fall of the first drops of water during the rainy season. So, this verse describes the course of the water drops, the first water drops. Prathama means the first. Uda refers to water. Bindu is drop. The first water drops, Prathamoda Bindavaha, their stages are described in, their stages or actions are described here. Actually, the course of the water drops in 5 steps is described here. Sthitaha kshanam pakshmasu tadita adharaha payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha valishu tasyaha skhalitaha prapedire chirena nabhim. So, these refer to the 5 stages. So, at 5 points of her body, namely the Pakshma, and then Adhara, and then Payodhara, and then Vali, and finally Nabhi. So, these are the 5 points where the water drops touch her person successively. The first water drops, they stayed for a while. So, sthitaha means dwelling or staying. So, they stayed for a moment, kshanam, for a moment, upon her eyelashes. Pakshmas. So, Pakshman refers to the eyelash, and Pakshmasu kshanam sthitaha. For a moment they stayed upon her eyelashes, and subsequently they hit against Tadita is hitting against the adhara or the lower lip. So, they hit against the lower lip of Parvati. Subsequent to that, they became shattered, churnitaha. Upon their fall, nipata, upon the exuberance of her bosom, payodhara utsedha. Utsedha is exuberance of her payodhara, is the bosom. Subsequently, they faltered, skhalitaha, upon the folds of the skin. Vali is fold of skin. So, folds of her skin upon the abdomen is called vali in Sanskrit. So, faltering there, faltering on the folds of the skin on the belly of Parvati. After a long time, chirena, they reached prapedire, the navel of Parvati. So, chirena nabhim prapedire. So, prathamoda bindavaha nabhim prapedire forms this kernel sentence, and what happened before, the 4 stages before are described by the various expressions here. So, pakshmasu kshanam sthitaha prathamoda bindavaha, taditadharaha prathamoda bindavaha, payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha prathamoda bindavaha, and tasyaha valishu skhalitaha prathamoda bindavaha. Such prathamoda bindavaha chirena nabhim prapedire is the sentence in this verse. This is said to be a very significant verse in Kalidasa's Kumarasambhavam and among Kalidasa's works themselves. So, pakshmasu kshanam sthitaha, the water drops rested for a while upon the eyelashes of Parvati, and then they hit her lower lip. They dashed against her lower lip, and they became shattered into small drops consequent to their falling upon her protuberant breasts. Payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha. And finally, before they reached the nabhi or the navel, they faltered, skhalitaha, upon the folds of the skin on her abdomen, tasyaha valishu. Now, this shloka is considered very significant for the description of Parvati's tapas, the exaltedness of Parvati's tapas, as also her beauty. Now, the water drops rested for a moment. So, prathamoda bindavaha, so this is M13 bindavaha, and therefore the words sthitaha, taditadharaha, churnitaha, skhalitaha. So, all these are adjectival to these bindavaha, and therefore all these are M13 Pullinga Prathama Vibhakti Bahuvachana. The first drops of water in the rainy season, they rested for a while upon her eyelashes. Pakshma is eyelash. So, upon her eyelashes they halted for a moment. So, this indicates that her eyelashes were densely grown. So, 3 factors are sometimes described as the quality of good hair, namely ghanatva, snigdhatva and shlakshnatva. So these are three features sometimes referred to as marks of good hair on the head, and also so of the pakshmans or the eyelashes. So the eyelashes were very dense. So that is the dhvani that is conveyed here. Because the density of the eyelashes, the water drops lingered there for a while. Kshanam sthitaha. So they remained there for a while. However, they moved on because the eyelashes were soft and glossy. For this reason, they did not stay there for long, but it is only for a moment. Kshanam sthitaha. And then they moved on. And taditadharaha, they hit against her lower lip. Two parts of the body are said to be extremely delicate, namely the apanga or the corner of the eye and the lower lip or the adhara. So the word taditadharaha is to be analyzed as taditaha adharaha yaihi te. So refers to udabindavaha, and therefore as this is also M13, that also has to be M13. So tadita adharaha, they hit against the lower lip. The word tadita means hitting or beating. So dashing against the lower lip shows the tenderness of the lower lip. So that is also obtained by means of the dhvani. So the tenderness of the lower lip is very well hinted here. So it is also a mark of beauty. And further, they are broken into tiny particles, churnitaha. The bindavaha were shattered or made into tiny bits. So churnitaha, on account of their fall, nipata, upon the payodhara utsedha. So payodhara stands for the breast, and the dissolution of this compound word is payodharayoho utsedha, payodharotsedha, and payodharotsedhe tasmin or tatra nipataha is payodharotsedha nipataha. Tena is equal to payodharotsedha nipatena churnitaha. Gives the expression payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha. Now this can happen, this kind of shattering of the water drops can happen only consequent to the hardness of the breast, which is considered a mark of beauty. So this also idea is also obtained by suggestion. So the dense and softness and glossy nature of the pakshman, that is also indicated by the dhvani here, and then the tenderness of the adhara is also indicated by dhvani, and the hardness of her bosom is also indicated by dhvani. So payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha. And subsequently the water drops pass through her valleys or the folds of the skin on the abdomen. So this can happen only in the case of a tapaswin, so whose abdomen is neither convex nor flat, but has small folds of the skin, shows small folds on the skin on the abdomen, and this itself is considered a mark of beauty. And therefore, so when we say krishangi or krishodari, so which is considered as a mark of krishodara is considered as a mark of beauty, and therefore this condition of the body itself is a mark of beauty. So Valishutasya skhalitaha prapedire and chirena. So after a long time, that is chartering its course from stage 1 from being on the Pakshmans to reaching the Nabhi is chirena after a long time. So passing through these 4 stages, Nabhim prapedire, they reached the Prathamoda Bindavaha, the first water drops reached her Nabhi. So Nabhim prapedire. Now Kalidasa does not say that the first water drops went out from Nabhi, because if her Nabhi was at the surface or was convex, so which neither of which is a mark of beauty, they would not have stayed there, and therefore their reaching that point shows the depth of the navel, which is also obtained by dhvani. So the depth of the navel is indicated here. Therefore Nabhim prapedire, they reached her navel. So the course of the first water drops is very well described here. Now this shloka has also been taken up for discussion in many works on Alankara, and most conspicuously by Appaya Dikshita in his Chitramimamsa. So there he shows how every one of the features that have been described here to describe the beauty of Parvati actually shows the kind of austerity that Parvati was pursuing. So sthitaha kshanam pakshmasu taditadharaha. So pakshmasu kshanam sthitaha. Had her eyes been fully open, they would not have been the first water drops would not have been able to stay there for a while. Had they been fully closed, once again they would not have been able to stay there for a moment and then move on. And therefore this shows that her eyes were half open and half closed. So this happens when the drishti is focused on nasagra. So he gives this verse, which is a description of the state of samadhi, namely nasagran nyasta nayanaha samvritasyaha sunischalaha dhyayita manasa devam uro vishtabhya chagrataha. So this nasagra drishti is described in the expression sthitaha kshanam pakshmasu. And then the next point is that the mouth should be closed during the performance of tapas, and it should not be open. And it is only upon the consequence of the mouth being closed that the water drops could fall on the lower lip, or else if the mouth were open, then the water drops would probably have entered her mouth. And therefore taditadharaha shows that her mouth was firmly closed, and as a consequence the first water drops hit against her lower lip. And then this would not have again happened had she been moving, and therefore her naischalya is also indicated in these expressions. And then payodharotsedha nipata churnitaha. If a person is sitting for tapas in a sort of a crouching position or any other odd position except being erect, then also the effect of the water drops, the course of the water drops would not have been so as to fall on the exuberance of her bosom. And therefore the uro vishtambhana of Parvati is very well described here. Uro vishtabhya chagrataha is what is required to be the course of the performance of tapas, and therefore Parvati was sitting erect and her bosom thrust forward. So this is the correct state of sitting in the course of the performance of tapas. So once again, even here the sthairya of being steady is described here. Patanjali defines asana as sthira sukham asanam. The factors of sthairya and saukhya are what are required for a steady asana, and especially the sthairya of Parvati of being very steady. So, not moving even a bit is what is required, and therefore, Parvati was seated in a firm sitting posture and she was not at all moving. This not slouching and not being relaxed. So, that kind of stature is, that kind of posture, yogic posture is described here very well. And then the water drops, they faltered on the skins of her abdomen, so which are also in a state of withdrawal, a mark, another mark of tapas. And then finally they reached her abdomen, the navel. The dissolution for the word prathamoda bindavaha is udakasya bindavaha becomes udabindavaha on account of a particular rule of Panini. So, udaka becomes uda when it is followed by bindu, and the rule is optional. Therefore, you can have either udaka bindu or uda bindu. Here we have uda bindavaha, and prathame uda bindavaha becomes prathamoda bindavaha. So, prathamoda bindavaha, the first drops of water. I would like to read out the actual statement of Appaya Dikshita, which gives a graphic description of the poetic excellences of Parvati's tapas. The opening words of his Chitrimimamsa read like this: Yatra vachyatishayi vyangyam sadhvanihi yatha. He gives this verse as a prime example for dhvani. He says, Atra tapasyantyaha devyaha dehopar nipatadam prathama vrishti kriya svabhava varnanena devyaha samadhichitavasthana abhivyakti dwara chiranidaghatapta dehopari nipatanena sukha paravashya sambhrama hetau prathama vrishtaavapi avihata samadhyavastha vyajyate. तथा ही नासाग्रण्यस्तनयनः संवृतास्य सुनिश्चलः ध्यायेत मनसा देवम् उरोविष्टभ्य चाग्रतः इति समाधिमताम् अवस्थानम् आहुः. तत्र पक्ष्मसु स्थिताः इत्यनेन नासाग्रण्यस्तनयनतारूपम् अर्धनिमीलनं व्यज्यते. सर्वथोन्मीलने पक्ष्मणाम् ऊर्ध्वाग्रत्वेन सर्वथानिमीलने तेषाम् अधोग्रत्वेन च तेषु जलबिन्दूनां स्थित्यसम्भवात्. पक्ष्मभ्यश्च्युतानां तेषाम् आस्य अप्रवेशेन अधरोष्ठे निपत्य ततश्च्युति कथनेन संवृतास्यत्वं व्यज्यते. ततश्च्युतानां तेषां स्तनोत्सेध निपतनादि वर्णनेन तु उरोष्टम्भः अलसवदनता अवस्थाने हि स्तनयोः अन्तःसङ्कुचिताकारतया तदुत्सेधयोः तेषां पतनं न स्यात्. कथञ्चित् तयोः पतित्वा वलित्रयं प्राप्तानामपि वलीषु तिर्यगेव गमनं स्यात् न नाभिदेशप्राप्तिः. नाभौ च संवृतायां प्रवेशो न स्यात्. पक्ष्म अधर आदिपतनक्रमकथनेन च निश्चलत्वं व्यज्यते. मुखादिचरणे सति पक्ष्मपतितानां तेषाम् अधरपयोधरादिक्रमेण पतना असम्भवात्. किञ्च येभिरेव विशेषणैः देव्याः लोकोत्तरं सौन्दर्यम् अभिव्यज्यते. स्थिता इत्यनेन पक्ष्मणाम् अविरलतायाः, क्षणम् इत्यनेन तेषां मसृणतायाः, पक्ष्मपतन शिथिलवेगैः उदबिन्दुभिः ताडनोक्त्या अधरस्य अतिसौकुमार्यस्य पक्ष्माधरपतनादिभिः शिथिलवेगानां तेषां स्तनोत्सेधे चूर्णीभाववर्णनेन तयोः अतिकाठिन्यस्य उरोविष्टम्भेऽपि वलीषु तेषां स्खलनोक्त्या वलीनां विस्पष्टतायाः सर्वबिन्दूनां नाभावेव प्रवेशकथनेन नाभेः अतिगभीरतायाश्च अभिव्यञ्जनात्. एवञ्च वाच्यातिशायि व्यङ्ग्यमत्र इति ध्वनेः उदाहरणम् इदम्. So he takes this as a prime example for dhvani. And we may also notice one or two points which have been missed by the commentators, namely that after the passing of the summer season, when the first drops of the water in the rainy season, so when they fall, there is a distinct reaction from the earth also, namely the smell of the earth comes out in a very strong manner, and it is a very pleasant smell. And for a person absorbed in penance, this kind of a strong and pleasant smell can distract his mind and make him turn outwards. So this effect has not happened in the case of Parvati, which shows deep absorption inside. And secondly, the sprinkling of water upon any person, even in a deep yogic state, can distract his mind and turn his mind a little outwards, and this effect has also not happened. So we have seen persons in a state of swoon sprinkled with water and they regain their consciousness, and here the external consciousness, her mind has not turned into an external consciousness, and therefore even if the sprinkling of the water drops, so her mind has remained intact, turned totally inwards, and therefore it is as though nothing of the exterior stages and developments, whether in the atmosphere or on her own person, so have deterred Parvati from her penance or have distracted her. And the special sensation of the water slowly moving upon her person can also distract the mind and turn the mind outward, and that also has not happened here. And therefore this Nishchalatva is also, the Nishchalatva of the body is a clear indication of the Nishchalatva of the mind, and therefore a high state of Parvati's austerities has been described in this verse, and thus this verse becomes a very important verse in Kalidasa's work, simultaneously describing the superlative beauty of Parvati's frame and also the superlative degree of her tapas. Shall pass on to the extra time. ಆಯ್ತಾ ಇದು 12 ಇವಾಗ, it's 12. You can take a break for 1 minute.